Hi guys, I'm back for another episode of Being with Tim, sitting on this very uncomfortable rock, talking about a very uncomfortable topic, and that is colony collapse disorder. You've probably heard about it. It's affecting bees around the world. Colonies are dying from it, and you know, as a beekeeper, you always think, yeah, well, my bees are special. They're gonna be fine, but they won't be. They'll get it and they'll die from it. And some of my colonies have it, and now I have to figure out what to do with them. So that's where we're at. It's early October here. Not been any rain in months, so it's pretty dry. I can't remember the last rain. It means there's no nectar for the bees to get, no pollen. They're starving. And on top of that, they have to deal with this colony collapse at the same time, which I'll explain in a bit. So yeah. So in this video, we'll be focusing on the last hive, which is the one we pulled about 80 pounds of honey from in episode 10. That's this big hive at the end here. And so now just looking at the traffic, right? Look at this single hive. This actually is half of a hive. I have a divider in the center here. These bees are only half of one box. And look at all the traffic that's happening down here. Now, if you compare that, you know, to a hive that is, you know, almost 4 times its size, and it has less traffic, that already tells you that something is up, and it is, from the outside, invisible. So what we'll have to do is go ahead and open this up. Now they are still refilling some of the honey that we took a couple of months ago, but it is not going at the rate that they should be refilling this. A hive of this size should be able to fill up 2 entire supers quite quickly. So yeah, they're still making honey. Now I can't actually go through all of this honey and take my time and show you guys about it, because this hive currently smells really good because there is honey in it, but not a lot of bees. And these other beehives, trust me, they can sense that, and they will be here checking out this hive, trying to rob some of that honey. That's called robbing. It's very, very well known for beekeepers. And so, let's see, that feels like maybe they refilled about 40 pounds of honey. All right, so immediately you can see this is the center of the hive, okay? There are not a lot of bees in here. It should be absolutely full of bees. They should be on top of these frames. So let's pull one of them out and take a look. Colony collapse disorder is caused by a mite called the Varroa mite, or Varroa destructor. And the way that you can imagine this mite is, it is a tick, and it's about the size of a tick, except instead of biting a human, this tick bites bees. And now imagine how big that tick is in comparison to the size of the bee. It's like you being bit by a fist-sized tick, okay? And so mostly this tick actually affects the larva, which then die. So here is an uncapped larva in there. This probably has the Varroa mite because they have uncapped it, and they are about to pull it out and kill it, and then dispose of it. If you look through the frame, you can see that there are several half discarded larvae. For example, you can see one there a little bit to the left of the very visible white one, and this whole frame is littered. You know, there's another one in there that littered with larvae. The mites themselves are only the first part of the problem. They actually transmit a host of diseases. Now take a look, for example, at this bee right here. This bee has no wings. Look at her. She just hatched, and she is without wings. See if I can pick her up, right? This bee here has something that is called deformed wing virus. And what that means is you know, her wings are deformed. She will never be able to fly. And this virus is spread by the mites. You know, bees who can't fly are doomed to die. Here's another bee with the virus right here, just underneath. So there you go. It's very sad to watch because these bees are, of course, doomed. Now, let me see if I can get a close-up of a bee with the Varroa mite on her. I probably just have to fish out one. Now, there are ways to actually quantify the Varroa count. There are several methods which I'm not using. The way I look at it is if I see deformed wing virus, if I see them pulling the bees back out of the unhatched capsules, that's when I know there is a problem, and that's when I have to be serious about a treatment. So here's actually one that has a mite currently visible. Look at this. This is, oh, can I find her again? Where did you go? Trying to find a needle in a haystack, trying to find a bee in a hive. Possibly more difficult because the haze don't move. Anyone ever thought about that? The hay things, but the bees move. I spent a while trying to find a bee that would hold still for us to take a nice video of the mite crawling around on it, but you know, it's just impossible. Everything is moving. Instead, I'm gonna now cut to a photo that I took instead earlier this year that shows one of these mites sitting on a bee. So check this out. And then this happens. You know, you don't have enough bees to defend all this territory, and then pests move in. So here is the damage caused by a wax moth larva. They go into these beautiful frames of pollen that have been collected, go through here, and absolutely destroy the comb. I was able to catch it early, and I excavated the larva out of here. Let me show it to you. There you go. And this thing will go through the comb and wreck it. So we are going to actually wreck this thing ourselves. Now, treatment for the Varroa mite is so tough because you have to be able to kill the Varroa mites, but not the bees, right? So if you think about any sort of chemistry you can throw onto there, pesticides will just kill everything. So how do you kill just the mites and not harm the bees? And so I'm using the most natural thing that you can do for this, and that is something called formic acid. So the bees naturally produce formic acid. You know, put it in their stings, they put it in their honey, and so they are immune to higher concentrations of it, whereas the mites are not. So we're going to do a formic acid treatment of the hive, where we will vaporize formic acid inside the hive, and that will kill most of the mites, but not so many of the bees, right? And so to do this, I'm using this Formic Pro, and in here there are strips of formic acid, which we put into the hive for about 2 weeks. And over 2 weeks, these strips will release formic acid vapor inside the entire hive, and that will get the job done. So here are the two pads that go on. They go onto the bottommost box, and now I'll stack these guys back up there. They smell really strong. It burns to just breathe around here right now. So you know, it's really no joke, and the bees will suffer from it too. I know everything's now fighting up here. These are robber bees coming in at the top. There's some yellow jackets, you know, bees fighting each other. So I have to close these back up. There's robber bees down here, where I just had the empty frames stacked that smelled like honey. Take a look at this. You clearly see bees trying to kill other bees. So these are robbers coming into the hive that the hive is defending against, or you know, if it's not going too well, these are the native bees from this hive that are being pulled out by the robber bees. So fingers crossed that the home game hive will win. All right, my eyes are burning. I put this stuff into each of the big hives, like I just showed you with one of them. The small hives are too weak right now. They can't take this dose of formic acid, and even that the big hive I just showed you, I'm worried about it, because you know, not a lot of bees in there, and if they get overrun by yellow jackets or another hive, they'll come in there, kill the queen, and that colony is done. So fingers crossed that works. And the small hives, I hope, will be able to fight off Varroa by themselves. I was hopeful that I'd be able to do a second harvest from the big hive, and they do have some honey to harvest, and I could probably pull that of those 40 pounds, but I don't really want to do that right now. They're stressed, they might need the honey. I've used the big hive to support the smaller hives, actually, which have been starving over the summer because they didn't have all these honey stores, and so I've been taking frames from the big hive to feed the small hives, and now the big hive's screwed as well because of the colony collapse. So, you know, we have to sit tight for a bit and maybe get a haircut. Yeah, let's hope we'll be able to harvest honey again sometime in the future, but it doesn't look like this year there'll be another harvest.